Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. This is Inga Hansen, editor of Metaesthetics Magazine. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, you can type them into the question box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will answer them at the end of the webinar. Today, we'll be talking about how to coordinate your online efforts and in-office protocols to increase leads and booking ratios. Our presenters are John Hoffenberg, President, and Ed Syring, Senior Vice President of YellowTelescope, SEOversite, and iScreamSocialMedia. Since its founding in 2008, YellowTelescope has helped hundreds of medical aesthetic practices grow through tested, proven methods in sales and marketing. The company has been recognized by the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce as Entrepreneurs of the Year and the South Florida Business Journal Top 40 Business Leaders Under 40 and 50. Welcome, John and Ed.
Thanks for having us. Good morning, West Coast. Good afternoon, East Coast. This is John speaking, and Ed is on the call as well. We're going to be going through some information with you guys today, and really appreciate you joining us today. We know everyone is busy, so we're going to dive right in. I'm going to take the first couple of slides and then hand it over to our Senior Vice President partner, Ed. A little bit of brief background for anyone who's not familiar with us. We began as YellowTelescope in 2008. We ran one of the largest elective practices in the country and grew by quite a bit each year. And one of our, claims to fame before we were a consulting company, we were just practice administrators and patient coordinators, was that our in-office booking ratio of cosmetic patients, elective patients, was between 60 and 90% in office versus the national average of probably about 15 to 20%, which means that around 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 of your patients on average that show up in your office give you a credit card that day. And your callback ratio based on national averages is probably similar, around 20%, for a total booking ratio of elective medicine patients, meaning surgical patients, not necessarily Botox and fillers, which have a high booking ratio, a total booking ratio of around 35 to 40%. Every practice that we've worked with since 2008 has averaged between 60 and 90% in-office booking ratios for surgical procedures. And we're going to be talking a little bit about some of the basic tips on how to achieve those in your office. Our process has been tested nationwide over tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in sales over the last better part of a decade. On the website, we have a second company called SEOversite, which is a matchmaker between medical practices and high-quality, vetted, reasonably priced web vendors. And our experience was that we were spending over $30,000 a month in our practice on various marketing. And the reality is we probably were overspending, and we just wished to ourselves, is there someone out there that can help us oversee our website, oversee our SEO, and help us to do things the right way online? And that's where we came up with SEOversite. Last, from that, we realized that social media has become more prevalent. We just weren't happy with anybody out there in the market and the social media they were creating and curating. So we created the company ourselves, and that's our third wing, which is iScreamSocialMedia. Everything we're teaching today is tested. Everything we're teaching today works, and it works in all markets with slight nuances and shifts. And so what we're teaching is not our opinion or us saying we're smart people, but rather things we know work based on a variety of testing over a very long time. So a little bit of background on us. You can check out our websites, YellowTelescope.com, SEOversite.com, and iScreamSocialMedia.com for more general information. Our contact information will be here at the end, although very simply, info@YellowTelescope.com will help you out. We will dive in on some actionable items and things you can take directly back to your practice on this webinar, but I'll leave this screen up here just for a quick moment and jump in at this point.
Yeah, obviously we're pleased to be here. Thanks for having us again, everybody. John and I do a fair amount of speaking. This year happens to be particularly robust for us. So if any of our attendees do happen to be traveling around the country at various meetings where we will be, please come see us. Please come say hi. I'd love to connect. Of course, we do host our own annual seminar ourselves here in sunny Miami as well. Which happens to be coming up in November this year. It'll be our 8th year having the seminar. We'd love to have everybody join us here in our hometown. Sorry we couldn't do it during the January time of year when it's the nicest place to be. We wanted to kind of call this a little bit of our highlights from our best of album, simply because we had somewhat of a limited amount of time to cover a lot of robust information, and the editors at Metaesthetics had asked us to speak on a couple of different topics. Really first focusing on increasing your booking ratio with our proprietary techniques as John alluded to, increase it to the levels of our long-term clients. We also then thought once we plugged the leaks in the gas tank, it's time to add more gas, and I wanted to add some leads through a better conversion of your website. And so we'll kind of go through some tips to our SEOversite group as far as from a design standpoint, how you can improve that, as well as monetizing social media presence, because this is something that actually has become significantly more monetizational, actually just in the last few years. So we could spend an hour on each one of these topics, but we'll certainly touch on some of the highlights.
So let's go ahead and dive in on the concept of improving in-office and overall booking ratios and how we actually do it. And what we're going to talk about for our topic on this today is the way that people purchase and the psychology behind buyer behavior, which will work back to the concept of why this process works in all of our practices nationally. So one of the things that we know is that in general, there are 7 steps to making a sale, and that's its own separate topic. You can look up any number of textbooks online and find 6, 7, or 8 different steps that generally are believed to work in the process of building value and making sales. So some of these you're already doing. For example, if you're not building rapport with patients and they don't like you, they're certainly not going to purchase your product or service. Similarly, if you're not educating patients on the product or service that you have in a detailed fashion, you're not going to sell. If you're not asking for the order at the end of the appointment, you're not going to be able to make sales and grow your business. But what we found is that even when we took tried and true methodologies that have worked across many industries for many, many years into this industry, we found that although booking ratios increased, they didn't increase significantly. When we were running an extremely busy practice that was doing over 1,000 surgeries a year, what we realized is that we were getting out of the office late, seeing so many consults, sometimes 5 different people with 5 different patient coordinators, hour after hour after hour, just to keep our surgery schedule full. And the challenge with that was that our booking ratios simply weren't great. We were using proven methodologies on how to build rapport, proven methodologies on how to build value, and we were doing all the basic steps that most salespeople are taught on how to improve booking ratios and sales, but we still weren't getting the conversion rates that we wanted to. And so we said, why is it that when we have a great product, a great doctor, a great service, a great staff, people are still leaving without being ready to purchase and oftentimes not calling back and going with competitors who did not create the same results and didn't have the same staff that we did? And so when we started diving into the psychology behind purchasing behavior, what we really realized is that people react largely the same, but they shift that reaction based on the size of the purchase. So when you guys out there in webinar land think about major purchases and the way you purchase, some of you guys would define yourselves as slow decision makers, and some of you guys would define yourselves as fast decision makers. So for example, some will say, you know what, I'm not someone who over-research, I don't read every Yelp, I just decide. And other people would say, you know, I'm very methodical, I look at every single Yelp, then I decide which restaurant, and then I ask all my friends, and then I think about it, and then I finally make a reservation. There are a variety of different people who fit both of those categories. But what we've actually found in the research is that it's very much based much more so than how you define yourself as a quick or slow decision maker. It's much more well-defined based on whether the decision is large or small. So I had an old mentor of mine that told me once, John, in life, you got to not mess up 3 decisions. You got to get the right house, you got to get the right spouse, and you got to get the right job. And if you can get those things right, you're going to be happy because these are 3 of the biggest decisions in your life. What we've added to that over time is number 4, the right medical care. Because if you get the wrong house, you're going to be underwater and broke. It's one of the biggest decisions of your life. The wrong spouse, well, you're going to lose half your stuff and be miserable for at least a few years. The wrong job, well, we spend half our life doing it, so you don't want to find something you're going to be miserable with. And then the right people to cut your body open. And the reason for that is if you don't get the right doctors, you're either going to feel funny or look funny, and either one of those is going to be bad. So those are your 4 big decisions: house, spouse, job, and medical care. And if you can get those 4 decisions right in life, you're going to be a happy person. The challenge is because those are big decisions, everyone's aware of it. And because everyone's aware of it and they're big decisions, we all get what we call anxiety. We all slow down when we're about to make these decisions. These are anxiety-reducing, decision-slowing life choices. And because our medical care, because aesthetic medicine fits into one of those categories, this is something that people really slow down in their decision-making with. And it's why we start to get objections, where a patient comes into you, the doctor or the staff member, and says, I really love my appointment with you. I really, really love the doctor. I really, really love my coordinator. I really love everything that's going on. But you know what? I'm going to go home and think about it. I'm going to go talk with my spouse. I'm going to go check my schedule. I just need to process. I need to see 3 more doctors before making a decision. And the reason this happens is because we define the reality that this is a psychological decision that is very difficult for people to make. And when we have difficulty, we get anxiety. Anxiety is essentially defined as false fear. It's a fear of the unknown, and we slow down. So even our slow decision makers listen to this podcast still pick out for lunch what they want from Taco Bell. They don't say, well, how dare you push me into a decision? I'm a slow decision maker. I'm going to go through Taco Bell 4 times, and then I'll let you know when I'm ready to order my cheesy gordita crunch or regular soft taco. Nope, we all make quick decisions, even if we're slow decision makers on simple things, and we all, even if we're quick decision makers, do heavy research on big decisions. So if we know that patients in general, whether it's something as simple as Botox, which you and I think of as a minor thing, but a new patient might think of as a needle to the skull, which it fundamentally is, filled with what? Botulism. Mm-hmm. This is an anxiety-producing decision, let alone having a tummy tuck or breast augmentation or facelift or rhinoplasty, or for that matter, Thermeva or any other hot new things that are happening out there in the market. They're going to slow down, and they're not going to buy from you the first day, even if you have an exceptional first-day experience. So we said, how can we change that paradigm? Well, it would be wonderful if we could turn this into 3 consults. We realized that if we could have every single person come in for initial consultation with you, and then come back for, say, a second consultation and actually scrub in and watch surgery, and then maybe get invited over to the doctor's house for a barbecue with his kids and family, we'd have about a 100% booking ratio, because the patient would say, not only do I know that the doctor does good work, but I know his kids, I know where he lives, and I feel very confident moving forward. But the challenge is we have less time, not more time. So how do we create the feeling of 3 dates when we don't have 3 dates? Similarly, none of us kiss on the first date, because it fits into that finding a spouse category. Well, how do we, if we're going to run a dating show, increase the chance of people kissing? Well, we create 3 dates in one. We have them go do something physical like a bike ride. We then have them meet for dinner, and then we have them go out dancing. So it's still 1 date over 1 day, but it feels like 3 dates. So how do we create the feeling of 3 dates if we don't have 3 dates? And the big takeaway from this is that if your practice is not currently creating the feeling of 3 dates, you're losing booking ratios. The first date needs to become your initial call. And you might say, well, John, we already answer the phone. We already have a receptionist who handles the call, and they schedule the patient. That's a boo-boo. Even if your receptionist is a superstar, even if she's a phenomenal person, she does not have the time necessary to really do an in-depth initial call where we're building rapport, educating them on the practice, educating them on their procedure and healing time, giving them an idea of ballpark price ranges, figuring out within reason what their time frame might be, getting them prepared for the consultation where they're aware of what's going to occur, getting rid of some of their fears and preparing them for your likely deposit, and getting them in more ready to book. So what we need to do is start adding an initial call, which should be done by your patient coordinator. And if you don't have one, you've got to get one, which we'll come back to later. The second date is before the doctor walks in. We've now started the consultation. We need the patient coordinator to meet with the patient before the doctor. A lot of offices we talk to say, oh, yeah, my patient coordinator, my nurse goes in at the end and gives them a price. The problem with that is they have no relationship with you. It's the very first date when they meet you. You're just, hi, I'm Susie. Here's your price. And there are deer in headlights, and some buy and most don't, and we have to build rapport from scratch and we lose them. But by meeting with the patient as a coordinator before the doctor ever walks in the door, we can once again build a relationship, create a level of comfort, educate them, and make sure before the doctor walks in, he is prepared and educated on what they seek, and they are prepared and expectant on what he's going to provide or she is going to provide as the physician. And then the third date becomes the doctor's consultation and the price presentation. Normally, in many practices, the doctor or the nurse injector or whoever is providing the service, or even the esthetician, is the only date. They get scheduled very quickly by a receptionist. Thank you for calling. Sure, we'd love to get you in. Come in on Wednesday. See you later. Goodbye. They show up and really haven't had a date. They get put in a room, and in walks the doctor or the injector or the esthetician, and they have a wonderful, wonderful first date with a phenomenal provider. But at the end of it, they still have that anxiety. They're still on date one with you, and they say, I don't make quick decisions. This gives me anxiety, and I'm going to think about it. In this process, we've had 2 detailed touches, a nice 10 or 20-minute phone call, a nice 15 to 30 or 40-minute consultation, and now the doctor floats in on a pedestal, prepared, knowledgeable, with a patient who's prepared and knowledgeable. They then say, this has been a phenomenal third date. I think I want to kiss this guy. Not physically, hopefully, although, some of your doctors are kind of cute. And they come in more prepared to book. And at the end, when we're presenting price, there's no surprises because they knew the price. There's no surprises or lack of comfort moving forward because they know their healing time. And they feel they've got a relationship with at least 2 key individuals in the practice that have been established over a couple hours of intensive time, and our booking ratio goes up. Now, the exact outline of this phone call, the exact outline of what we call the second date or pre-consultation, and the exact outline of the quote-unquote closing is a topic for another time, and something that we spend literally hours doing during our annual YellowTelescope seminar, which takes place in early November. We actually outsold last year with 11 months left to go, where around 200 people fly in from as far as Australia, Canada, California, all over the nation to attend the event and learn some of the specifics. But if you simply add even an incorrect initial call and even an incorrect pre-consultation and just follow this basic step, your in-office and overall booking ratios on average will jump 10, 20, 30, 40%, depending on some of the nuances. So with that precursor of having the right patient coordinator doing the right three steps process, we wanted to transition into the next topic.
So we put together the concept of what we call the marketing totem pole, because when you look at planning any sort of cosmetic practice and exactly how to grow it, there's going to be so many different types of variables that you've got to consider from a marketing standpoint. And we've already alluded to the fact that without the superb patient care coordinator and really the entire process that they should actually be following, if they're not actually converting the majority of the people that are already coming into your office, you don't really need more leads. Need another patient coordinator, or your patient coordinator currently was the right talent to be able to follow a proven process that is going to allow them to actually book more of those people. So as John alluded to, they need to follow this specific process of at least the 3 dates, have those additional touch points, creating the perception that the patient has essentially already had the procedure and pictured themselves getting treatment and achieving the goals with the practice in order to get those additional conversions. Once you are actually converting at a 50, 60, 70, or even 90% conversion ratio, like many of our clients, at that point is the opportunity for you to expand what you can be focusing on to actually generate more of those leads. So the real focus after you've got your patient coordinator has got to be a superb website. Now, of course, everyone's looking at social media. We're looking at ratings and reviews, amazing pay-per-click advertising, search engine optimization, and it's hard to decide where to actually invest your dollars first, which is why we've put together what we've proven to be really the most effective priority list for who can actually, where your dollars should be spent. So first, invest in your people. Number 2, invest in your website. So first, what we're going to talk about is from a design standpoint, how your existing website or even a new website, since we've also found it needs to be rebuilt maybe every 2 to 5 years to remain current and make sure the design remains timeless. The architecture is actually going to be contributing to your search engine optimization. What can you do from the home page and throughout some of the interior pages that can actually get you up towards that 2, maybe even 3% conversion rate that we like to see from your overall organic visitors?
So we're going to talk a little bit about improving on-site conversion. And for those of you guys who aren't super techie, or maybe you say, I don't have much to do with the website of the business, you do, as we'll talk about. There are things that you can be doing to improve your overall lead counts by improving the website, even if it's not your role and you're working with a web team. So the first thought is this. You have a certain number of people going to your website every month already currently. It could be 200, it could be 1,000, it could be 5 or 10,000, it could be 20,000. Probably most elective cosmetic practices probably average 1,000 to 3,000 visitors to their website a month. And when we use the word conversion, what we're talking about is the percentage of those individuals who call or email. And we like to see a website that gets at least 2% of the visitors to use email, meaning to email leads, and then at least another 1 to 3% to call and dial. So if you have 1,000 visitors to your website, probably you're getting somewhere in the range, if you have a decent website, of 20 to 40 leads per month. So it's not a high percentage. That's not good. That's not bad. That's probably about industry average, is around 20 or 30 leads for every 1,000 visitors to your website. So if you have 5,000 visitors to your website, maybe you're getting around 100 leads, 125 leads. So what we talk about here is not going to be an entire talk on search engine optimization and all the link building and techie stuff your web team should be doing, but what are things that can be done on the site that can improve the percentage of people that call or email, or as we call them, become conversions or leads. So there's the power of 0.5%. A lot of people say, John, I'd like to get more leads. I'd like to get more people to visit my website. And that concept sounds great to us. But one of the things you can do without investing any more in your web team or investing any more in SEO is simply have a slightly higher percentage call that are already visiting. Imagine if you could get your 2,000 visitors a month to go from 3% or 60 leads to 3.5%. The power of just 0.5%, that's going to add something like 10 additional leads per month, 120 additional leads per year. And if your conversion rate to surgery on 120 leads is only 10%, which would be horrendous, then you probably have 12 new cases a year, 10 new cases a year, something like that, 10 to 12 new cases a year on just 0.5% improvement in conversion. And if your average order is $2,000 to $10,000, you can do the math and realize with just some minor tweaks, you generated $20,000 to over 6 figures in new revenue and largely profitable revenue by simply making your website better. One of the things that we've developed and believe in is what we call the 10-30 rule. And what it states is that people purchase from a website the same way people purchase in general, which is to say you've got about 10 seconds to capture the patient before they bounce and disappear. And in fact, your analytics on your website can actually give you what your quote-unquote bounce rate is, which is the percentage of people who visit your website and immediately click back. They just click the back button. We've all done that. If you've ever visited a website that just almost seems like it's going to give you a personal virus just by visiting it, where you say, I think I have syphilis. I've just went to this very, very shady website. Those websites increase the percentage chance that you just bounce back. And what's interesting is even a good website in our industry in cosmetic medicine probably has a 40 to 60% bounce rate, which means even with a good website, 4 to 6 out of 10 people leave it right away in the first few seconds without even visiting multiple pages. So you've got 10 seconds to capture them. And if you're lucky enough to capture them in the first 10 seconds, you might have another 30 seconds to recapture them. And then if those next 30 seconds will recapture them, then usually they'll stick around for a few minutes, and you've got a high chance of getting a phone call or an email lead. So what's interesting is even though this talk is about web, and the first part of this talk is about medical consulting and sales and closing and and consultations, the two follow the same pattern, which is to say we've only got a few seconds to win them over. And if you were to think about how you would select an orthopedic surgeon for yourself, forget cosmetic medicine, maybe a pediatrician for your child or an orthopedic surgeon to fix your shoulder. If we poll 1,000 people, almost all of you would say, hey, I look for experience. I want them to be specialized. I want them to have some decent accolades and education. Maybe they're board certified. Maybe they went to Harvard or Yale. Maybe they're award winning. I'd like to have their reviews online be pretty good, and so on. And if you ask 1,000 people, everybody comes up with 3 or 4 of these things. Now, if you were to go to your website right now and look at that home screen, what we call above the fold, which if you envision the old Wall Street Journal or New York Times, they always is delivered folded in half. And so we refer to the opening screen of your website, which just fits right on your laptop, as your above the fold section, the part that's seen most and immediately. And ask yourself in 10 seconds what it says about your practice. If it says warm and wonderful care, or it has a picture of a pretty person with stock photography, or it says 10% off CoolSculpt this month only, then you are getting very low conversion because your first 10 seconds doesn't teach them anything and you lose them. Now, if your first 10 seconds said board certified, Dr. William Smith, board certified, Ivy League educated, over 5,000 procedures performed, specializing in XYZ, YZX, and WYX, which are new procedures we just came out with, then you usually will capture those people because it fits these 4 or 5 things everybody needs. They don't want to see your before and after photos yet. They don't need a testimonial yet. They don't need to know you have a warm and caring demeanor, which is what every doctor on earth says, but very few actually deliver. What they want to know is, do you have the basics that we need to get to the next 30 seconds? If you provide that in the first 10 seconds, then they'll scroll for 30 seconds straight down and maybe read a testimonial or check out a little video or see a little before and after photo or maybe click into your gallery. And then if that goes well, then they'll search further. After that, we need easy contact information and accessible content. Do you have easy ways to be contacted above the fold on the home screen? If you have to click contacts to get your contact information, you're losing people. People are lazy, amazingly so, and if you even have to go into your contact form, it's too late. You ideally should have live chat on the website. You ideally should have real patient photos and videos. You should have testimonials and before and afters and all that stuff, but none of it matters until we make it easy to contact you immediately on every page as soon as it loads, and we have information that showcases the doctor or the med spa or the practice's accolades within those first few seconds. So we're going to show you some examples of what works and doesn't work based on this information, and Ed, who has wonderful color commentary, will show you a couple examples.
Well, how can I even say it any differently? Why would you pick this doctor? Because of the beautiful beach scene? Is it because you love orange? Is it because there's a blank about section that's actually right above the fold? This is actually a homepage of a former homepage where they had it built by another industry design firm, and we realized that it actually said nothing about the actual practice. So
there's no way you're picking these guys. And obviously, they look like total hacks. I mean, this can't possibly be anyone with any sort of education, background, or expertise. They're just some random eye doctors that apparently are on the beach drinking daiquiris.
Now, why wouldn't you pick this person? This is essentially the after photo of their website. And again, it follows the sales psychology that we've talked about. And when we talk about really the first 3 steps of our 7 steps to making a sale, number 1 is build rapport, number 2 is gather goals, and number 3 is present the accolades well before you're actually going to start describing any sorts of treatments or procedures or the before and after photos, et cetera. In this case, for an ophthalmology practice, the first things that we see are trusted local experts: Harvard, Johns Hopkins, Duke, Yale, Bascom Palmer, 8 doctors, 5,000 patients successfully treated. Furthermore, if we look, we've got multiple areas. If you can immediately call, even especially from a mobile device, just click the phone number. You can click the contact us page for folks who are used to that. On the very right-hand side, you've got schedule a consultation. Click here. Below, you've got get directions, which will immediately take you to their contact page that's got all their different locations and another opportunity to actually be able to contact them. So you never know exactly when a patient or a visitor to your website is finally going to get that urge. If they are spending even a few minutes on your website, they'll eventually be able to find that opportunity to click and actually submit the form.
All right. So what's interesting is both of these above the folds is the same practice in the same market with the same doctors. One is showcasing them as a true expert, which they always were. And if I were looking to get LASIK surgery, and we start with a non-aesthetic site purposefully because it's something you might consider and may not have access to. But if you're looking for LASIK surgery, which is an elective procedure you have to pay for out of pocket, or if you have cataracts and have to pay for upgraded, more expensive lenses, we've got to do in 10 seconds or less say, we have an individual doctor, an individual med spa, or a group practice, and here's 3 or 4 key reasons that you need to keep looking. And anyone in the market who sees this website is going to increase the chances to get past the first 10 seconds to the next 30. When we took this website live, we increased conversion rate by somewhere between 200 and 300% overnight. Now, let's look at some more examples. Here's a plastic surgery practice example. This is a facial plastic surgeon. And if you read nothing else, if you look at the 3 bullet points, what we know is that this doctor is double board certified. We know that he has performed over 10,000 facial procedures. We know that he trained at Cornell, Sloan Kettering, Tulane, and has all kinds of logos that seem to be trust builders. And in 10 seconds or less, we've captured the patient, and they're willing to scroll around, maybe read more about procedures, maybe look at the photo gallery. There's professional photography used. There's a lot of other reasons to pick them. But again, why wouldn't you shortlist this doctor? This improves conversion percentage.
Again, in one of the other interior pages of back to the ophthalmology practice, even when you scroll over each one of the locations, there's additional opportunities to contact. When you click the link, it will take you to the telephone. It will take you into another interior contact page. At the very bottom, what we call the footer of the web page, you have an additional contact form. And so we often hear back from clients that they're concerned that by having so many contact forms, it's actually going to be, it's going to take away from the design. And one of the things that we know to be true is that you've got the ability to actually create beautiful design while creating those additional opportunities for contact.
So when we think about conversion as a concept, it's important to note that our business, we are not yet another web company. We're not yet another web agency that you can hire and fire your old team. We're actually SEOversite. If eHarmony or $1 Million Matchmaker connect single people with dates. We are a free service. We charge nothing that connects practices, med spas, plastic surgeons, facial plastic surgeons, ENTs, dermatologists, cosmetic derms, and so forth. We connect them with high quality vetted web teams. If you're looking for live chat, if you're looking for ratings and reviews, if you're looking for website design, if you're looking for SEO or web marketing, inbound marketing, if you're looking for pay-per-click advertising, social media advertising, we're a one-stop shop where you can get the best teams that charge fairly, and our partner is completely free. Because of that, we're able to be transparent and teach real best practices, actual things that are actionable that you can do, and we make sure that you get connected to the right people. We think that it's a difference between most of the groups out there that largely are saying your old web team is bad, we're good, so come to us. Our attitude is, you know your web team is bad. In fact, 95% of web teams are largely not so hot. The other 5% are hard to decipher from the others. So if you're not so sure if your web team's great, if you maybe do, give us a call, have a conversation. It's free. We don't charge anything for our services, and we may be able to connect you with better options to get better results. And these are the sorts of things that we research and know as fact work, and there's a long, long list. I wouldn't say that this talk is a mile wide and an inch deep, but it's probably a mile wide and about 6 inches deep, and we can go miles deep when we talk live. Here's another quick example of, just using the appropriate design aesthetic, excellent photography, trust builders and trust signals, sleek, simple, sophisticated, modern design. And this website, again, converted at 2 to 3 to 4 times as well as it did the day before the old website went dead. Similarly, here's one of our favorite websites that we don't like.
Yeah, I love the top line. Dr. Garter talks about the Zika virus, which I think I just got by looking at this website.
We don't know what this website even does. It turns out that they're one of the largest pediatric groups in the area, but from looking at it, you have no idea if they're largely selling citrus or if they just like to kiss very cute babies. Although I've got to say, it's a little too close for comfort, a little bit questionable how much he loves the baby. It doesn't really make me want to bring my 4.5-year-old toddler to this practice. So a little fun here, a little color commentary, but this is the opposite of the direction we want to go. No calls to action, no ability to contact the office, no simple 10-second version on why they're any good, no 30-second version of what I want to read, poor layout, pretty much everything you don't want. So when we return to the marketing totem pole, and we think about the order in which you should run your practice, the first thing you've got to do if you have nothing else is to make sure you've got excellent patient care coordinators. We are former coordinators. We are biased, but no one makes a practice more money than having great people. It starts with people. And we see too many practices spending more and more and more and more on marketing, as Ed alluded to, putting more gas in the tank. Meanwhile, they don't have great people on the bus, or they're not taking great care of their people, and that comes first. Once you have great people, you want to have a superb website. We've shown you some examples and tips on how to improve that conversion. It's at that point you want to make sure your web marketing team really performs search engine optimization, really gets your rankings cranking, and then also is doing pay-per-click in a way that works. We have regular conversations with doctors and staff who say, oh, we tried pay-per-click, it didn't work for me. The reality is you're using the wrong team. Or you have the wrong people and you're not being efficient with the leads that you're getting. And so when you have great people and you've got a great website team, you're going to get results from your pay-per-click campaign in most markets most of the time. After that, you want to really improve your ratings and reviews. Did you guys know that there are businesses out there that can place an iPad in your office legally and in a HIPAA-compliant fashion, which you cannot do on your own? You can't just pick up an iPad and start collecting reviews in your office because Google detects your IP address and will actually blacklist a lot of your reviews. But where they have sophisticated software that allows an iPad to be placed in your office, handed to any happy patient, whether they had a facial, whether they had Botox or fillers, whether they had a laser treatment, or whether they had a surgery, and have them anonymously, legally, in a HIPAA-compliant fashion, upload a positive review to the internet and have it go to all sorts of websites, from HealthGrades to Vitals to Wellness.com and so forth. We can connect you. We don't mention specific names from webinars, but if you want to email us, we can connect you with some great teams. Similarly, if you're not using live chat on your website, contact us for some recommended teams. And for an English professor, don't contact us. But we'll get you with great live chat people. I was very anti-live chat when I heard of it because our whole model is having great patient coordinators build great relationships. And sometimes your coordinator is your manager or one of your nurses, but great people creating great relationships. And it just didn't translate to me how live chat works. But once you understand that it's largely lead capture and they're not going to take the job of or replace the role of your staff, you start to realize that people like it. In fact, according to HubSpot, 57% of people like and use live chat. So if you don't have it on your website, you're probably missing out. The nuances we can talk with you about offline. I know it's confusing to understand what it is and how it works, but just know that as you get down the totem pole, it becomes important. And then at that point, it's amazing social media. Now, we own the social media company. To our knowledge, we're essentially the only true social media group in cosmetic medicine currently that has a dedicated team that does nothing but social. Maybe there's a couple others out there we've never heard of, but it's really just us. It's called iScreamSocialMedia. We came up with the name because everybody hates social media, even though we all love social media. And it's that kind of tug and pull between really loving the trajectory and knowing it's the way of the future and loving ice cream, but also knowing it's not always good for you and you need it in small doses. So you scream, we all scream, and it's iScreamSocialMedia. And the only reason we do that in-house, you'll notice we do nothing ourselves. We consult practices on how to improve their results. We find you great website designers. We find you great search engine optimization. We find you great pay-per-click. We find you great ratings and reviews companies. And we find you live chat. But we do your social media, which is your social media ads, your curated content, your posts for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, etc. Why do we do it? And to be quite honest with you, we didn't want to originally, but we simply didn't find anyone out there that could create an authentic voice that feels local to your practice, that truly knew how to write in real sentences using English, that understood the technology behind social media and made it feel like it was coming from your local practice. So that's the last thing that we do in-house. We wanted to finish our talk today with a few quick tips and ideas on amazing social media.
First, I think it's interesting to look back at sort of where we've come from, because it will certainly illuminate where we're going. I think a lot of us can even remember just within the past decade, maybe last 2 decades, that advertising at one point, maybe a little bit longer than that, was actually illegal to advertise to be a doctor. Couldn't do it. And then a couple of rogue doctors decided to go ahead and start doing it, and then it became legal, but then it was frowned upon, of course. Let's get judgy, as we like to say. No doctor worth his or her salt actually finds patients by advertising. That's ridiculous. I have a good reputation. Well, of course, times continue to change, and then advertising became more and more prevalent in the airline magazines, et cetera. They said, well, nobody picks a doctor online. Well, the internet took over, and Google owns the world. Then somebody said, well, nobody picks a plastic surgeon online. That's ridiculous. Well, we've all seen how that's grown tremendously with the likes of RealSelf and, of course, every other doctor's website. Websites work, but social doesn't work. Nobody does that over social media. Then we say that social only works for the small stuff. Only people buy Botox, skincare, things like that. But no one's actually going to purchase surgery by some of the research that they might be doing on their very own social media. Now, of course, we've seen, and while we know it's very much a contentious debate out there as far as the appropriateness of some of the doctors, and we'll talk a little bit about the avatar that you can actually have, what we do know is it is pervasive.
So the reality is social media is now the way of the future. I'm not sure I love it. It just is. And as Ed alluded to, it seems like whatever nobody believes in, there's a bunch of other people laughing all the way to the bank while they don't believe. And then eventually you start believing, investing in it, and wonder why you weren't one of the first movers. What I can tell you is that in 2015, based on a study of 500 consecutive patients, this was in London, 95% used the internet to research their doctor, which means even the 40 or 50% who were patient or doctor referrals still went online and then looked up the doctor afterwards, which shows you why that ratings and reviews iPad is so important. 46% in 2015 used social media, and 40% were strongly influenced. That was 3 years ago, folks. In 2017, there's articles in the Wall Street Journal, which is Ed's journal of record.
Correct.
And when interviewing Dr. Miami, he said less than 18% of the most popular surgery-related posts on Instagram, or actually this isn't Dr. Miami quote, but what they said was that less than 18% of the most popular surgery-related posts on Instagram were posted by plastic surgeons licensed by the American Board of Plastic Surgery. Many others were posted by doctors in other fields, such as gynecologists or emergency medicine doctors who didn't undergo the 6 years of specialized training required for plastic surgery board certification. So even people outside of specialty, some of which are phenomenal, we're actually speaking at AACS in February, and then also some people who quite honestly aren't so great, realized they could make money and get the word out on social media. And that was, again, last year. We're now almost a year later. So as we talk about social media, please note a quick word about your web team, which is that most web teams love to sell you social media marketing services because they realize that people want it now. There's no one out there doing it well, and it's an easy way for them to add something to your bill. It is our view that most, if not, I wouldn't say all, but almost every single web company selling social media doesn't do a very good job, which is why we brought it in-house. Most just post, every single one, stock photography, poor writing, boring articles, no variety. It kills engagement. And the algorithms and views of Facebook and Instagram, which are owned by the same company, by the way, they actually bury all of your posts, and it hurts you to be doing it that way. So real social media experts get certified, make a career of this. This is a 50-hour-a-week job, not something you dabble in as an add-on because you're SEO experts. So you're going to spend money on this, whether you like it or not. You could say, oh, I'm going to have my receptionist do it because she's young and knows what Instagram is. That's not social media marketing. You can outsource it to your web team, or you can invest tons of money in an in-house person, or you could hire us or some other social media company, but get ready to spend. I wanted to leave you guys with a few quick tips. Be authentic. You've got to have a voice. If every single post is a before and after photo, or every single one just kind of gets posted by your web team, you're going to lose people. You need variety of posts, as we're going to come back to. You can post a lot of things, but, you know, if a tree falls in the woods, did anybody really hear it, or did it really happen, or whatever the analogy is, the answer is no. You can just keep posting. But if you believe that just posting good content will get you followers, that is a lie, and that is not really true in our industry. You've got to have somebody actively spending hours a day, week, and month following people to get follow-backs on Instagram and Twitter. And unfortunately, on company pages, you can't do it from Facebook or LinkedIn. And you have to understand the percentages. Did you know that for your company page, 95 to 97% of your posts are being buried by Facebook, and probably 80 to 90% on Instagram? So if you think you're not going to spend money to boost posts, you're not going to spend money to advertise on social media, you're kidding yourself as well. So very quickly on variety, Ed wanted to run through just some things you should have in all of your social media posts if you're bold enough to do it on your own.
Well, what we talked about, obviously there's a necessity to be paying for, especially in certain feeds, to actually increase the visibility of your posts. It is still important, even from an organic standpoint, to make sure that you are increasing your engagement with your followers as you're increasing those followers and they're following you back. We see all too often too many practices that post, you know, every single post is a special, every single post is going to be just, you know, one thing or the other, and there's too much consistency, which means that they become numb. So you want to bring things in that are personal. Bring in some photos as well as videos. Before and after photos, of course, highlight your results. Have fun. Be a little bit candid. Get some quick videos, 30-second boomerangs in the office. Post an article if you've been actually recently published or you presented at another meeting. Highlight that, because it actually, again, it's a trust builder to your followers. Things that are super off topic, anything that's irreverent or humorous. If you're promoting charities, or, you know, even highlighting other doctors and showing that you're a benevolent person within the industry and not necessarily going to be too competitive. And we have a couple of examples that, just so you can get an idea. You know, for example, this is just our feed, or one of them from YellowTelescope. We've got, you know, a trip to Los Angeles. And we like to highlight our travel and our clients. We still actually put a logo in there. It was a team member's birthday. We posted a funny video about the birthday. John and I do a podcast regularly where we do sip on a little bit of a whiskey on each one of those episodes. So we highlighted and promoted our podcast and showed a funny clip. We took some clients out to dinner and had a delicious seafood meal, highlighted the fun, amazing dish that we had while we were there. When we were visiting another practice, it was the doctor's birthday, and it was unbelievable 1,000-layer green tea crepe cake, which was unbelievable. We thought it was fun. And then, of course, we did something shamelessly self-promotional when we were nominated as one of the fastest-growing companies in South Florida. So there's a lot of things that you can do. Again, not to promote our own feeds, but obviously, you know, take these tips and apply it to your own.
So, again, variety is important. We can do some specials. In fact, you should, but they can't be everyone. You can do before and after photos, but it can't be everyone. You can be irreverent, a little bit of fun, but not everyone. And so what we're looking for is you want something that continually brands your practice, that has beauty, that shows the personal interest. So this is a doctor who likes the water, who lives in the Baltimore area, which this is a photo of. It's authentic and local to him, even if it's not authentic and local to you. And it gets engagement because people pay attention and listen, and it brands the practice. This is another one where we just took a simple concept of before and after photo, but we curated it to be a video that loops. So it's repeatable, it's fun, it's professional, it's engaging, but it's also a before and after photo, but it shows that the practice is taking time to actually care about the way it presents itself. We spend so much time making our website nice, so much time making our office pretty, so much time making sure the people we hire are professional and presentable, and then we throw up a garbage before and after photo or put stars over someone's breasts and, pretend it's fun, when the reality is you can do it better. And this is a viral post. People love this. It just keeps looping, and you want to watch it again to see just how subtle but impressive the result is. And it just keeps going. Oh, what happened? Oh, Brazilian butt lift, a little bit less in the tummy. Awesome. And then high-quality logo. These people care about their social media, and it really translates quickly. Testimonials. How are they being presented? Something authentic. This is our social media post. We love taking photos. We like traveling. This is a real photo we took while we were in Machu Picchu. And this got as much engagement the next time we made a sales pitch on our next post. People were paying attention. We write long on Instagram. It's actually a proven methodology that works. You actually don't want to be that short. You want to tell a story, have something that's interesting. And last, there's a lot of things we can't cover on all of this. You need to be following and following back, as we talked about. You have to understand the percentage of people that see you and don't see you. One of the misunderstandings that Facebook is more important than Instagram, when in fact Instagram is more important than Facebook unless you're spending lots of money on Facebook. And there's a lot more we can go into, which is why it's a full career. We wanted to wrap up the podcast, or the webinar, I guess, the podcast. So you can download our podcast in the iTunes Store, the Google Play Store, by searching one word, Yellow Telescope, by the way, and it's free. And if you have questions, definitely email us at info@yellowtelescope.com, guardian@SEOversite.com, or get the scoop at iScreamSocialMedia.com. We want to summarize with a few general points. One is, on the sales side, you've got to start treating your calls like a live consultation. You got to start treating your consultations like a definite sale, and make the doctor's portion of the consultation and the price presentation really the third date. You've got to weed patients in, not weed patients out, and find what's right for them over the phone. If they're 38 and want a facelift, get them in for fillers, get them in for facial aesthetics. Don't weed them out. If they're a little tight on cash, work with them over the phone to make a plan to save or get approved for care credit or other financing. Follow the marketing totem pole we presented. Get the right people on the bus, the right practice manager, patient coordinator, and get them trained. Yellow Telescope offers that training through our annual 2-day seminar in November, which will sell out, so get in early. We offer discounts now, plus a 10-pay plan with no interest. And then consider our more comprehensive consulting, which does book out between 3 months and a year in advance if you want to utilize us for that. So get in touch right away if you think you may need staffing, if you may need long-term training or long-term consulting. And that, again, a bare minimum, make sure you're not one of the only people in the industry who don't come to the Yellow Telescope seminar. You can read, I think, almost 500 written and video testimonials on our website, YellowTelescope.com. But after that, follow the marketing totem pole. Get the right website that converts right. Get the right web team doing SEO and pay-per-click, and then contact us to get connected to the right people for ratings and reviews and testimonials, live chat, and other things that we can offer you, including saving money on medical supplies. Put $3,000 a year into a tank, so every 3 to 5 years you can also update your website with a new one and a refresh one. And once you have the foundation, it's time to focus on excellent social media management, and iScream Social Media hopefully will make your short list when that time comes. I think we've got a few minutes left. On behalf of John, who is me, and Ed, who is him, hi. We want to thank you guys very much for taking your valuable time to be on the call. To the extent we've got a few minutes left to answer some questions, I believe maybe Inga or the organizers, we're going to see if there were any. And we'll be around for the next few minutes to provide any additional value we can. We really appreciate you investing the time and joining us today.
Thanks for having us, everybody.
Thank you guys so much. This was a lot of great information, and we do have some questions coming in. The first one, someone had to step away and was asking if they would be able to come back and watch the full recorded webinar and also share it with their coworkers. So this will be up on the Metaesthetics magazine site, metaestheticsmag.com/webinar, within the next day or two. And the first question we had is, somebody is asking in terms of all the things you recommend for the website, how important are the testimonials compared to the other information?
It's a great question. The answer is not particularly. in terms of the actual testimonials on your own website. So let's say, back 10 years ago, we used to get all of our patients to write us a nice note. We would then put that onto a testimonial section of your website. You absolutely should still have a testimonials website section on your website. And you absolutely should have, hopefully, 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 reviews there. But those aren't going to have a huge impact on your rankings or your SEO. But they're something that will help patients who like to read those things convert. It is more important at this stage from an SEO and rankings perspective to have many positive reviews on many different websites that link to yours. For example, vitals.com, healthgrades.com, wellness.com, Google reviews, of course, RealSelf. In many markets, Yelp, especially on the West Coast, so maybe a little bit less prevalent on the East Coast for Yelp. So yes, and it takes a village because, as you can see, just to get 10 on each one of those could mean 100 total reviews, and it really takes sweat equity and time. So our solution with the iPads and stuff, and there are some other options out there besides our solutions, are probably the easiest way to sort of warp things forward. I always say we're not a solution. We're the Super Mario Brothers warp zone. You still have to do some work locally. You still have to win the board and beat the Mushroom King, but hopefully we can help you skip a few levels and speed up the process.
Great. And we had another question about how do you guys feel about adding online stores or e-commerce to your practice website?
Well, I think that it actually can be very effective, assuming that you've got the inventory and you've got the staff to be able to handle things like that. But of course, you can't do it necessarily without the foundation. I wouldn't do it as something to actually increase visitors to your website. We've actually found that obviously without people already coming to it, nobody's necessarily going to purchase. Now, of course, if you've got an ability, particularly for your skincare products, particularly for the things that are reorderable, number one, obviously somebody on your team should be following up with patients, generally logging what month supply that they've got. So that they can follow up in 3 months once their skincare should be running out to see if they'd like to reorder. And having a portal, assuming you do already have a fairly robust retail presence within your practice, can help and make it that much easier for people to continue to order directly from you. But beyond that, no, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it something as a high priority to increase your presence, but it can be a nice add-on once you've got the.
But like everything, it really comes back to the totem pole, which is if you're not selling a lot of skincare in office, then you're not going to sell a lot online. If you're selling a lot in office because you have a superb esthetician or a superb salesperson who's supporting your medical practice, then you're going to have a lot of initial orders. Then the best thing to do next is follow up with that individual and say, hey, you should be running out of your Lytera by now, or you're running out of your Xeoskin, or whatever it is that you're selling. I'd love to go ahead and get you on an automatic drop ship order every 3 months, and in return we give you a small discount as a thank you. Oh, and by the way, we also have a shopping cart on our online. If you ever run out early, you're welcome to order. But relying on others to be proactive about shopping is largely ineffective, but it's better than nothing, and being proactive is the key at the local level through your staff.
Mm-hmm. And there was a question about Facebook and social media. Is Facebook as important as it used to be?
The answer is, if you've got a large marketing budget, yes, it is still the largest social media source. Over 1 billion people are on it. Everyone's on it, even though most people of my age group are now moving towards Instagram, and most of the younger people move towards Snap and some of the other ones. But the reality is, as a company, when you post something, let's say you post a special or an event, around 90 to 100% of the people that follow you will never see it because Facebook purposefully buries those posts. The only way to get them seen, so that means if you have 1,000 visitors, expect 30 people maybe to see it. So to get more people to see it, you must invest in boosted or paid posts. And if you want professional management, we can do all that for you. We do all of the boosted posts and paid ads for iScreamSocialMedia. We design all the creative and the ads for you. But you can do it at the local level if you've got some expertise. So Instagram, instead of 5 to 10% being seen at most, or 3 to 5% like Facebook, we guesstimate more like 10 to 20%, which is about the open rate of a good email blast. So Instagram, for every 1 follower, in my view, especially if you're not spending money to boost and to get paid ads, is worth 400 to 500% as much as 1 Facebook follower. Plus, on Instagram, you can follow people, which increases the chances that they follow you back, and you can actually grow your Instagram followership. So both are important. Instagram, in my view, is more important, but Facebook, particularly if you're investing in paid ads or boosted posts, can become equally or more important than Instagram, but it does require that initial budget. Otherwise, no one's going to see you. You're just shouting out into cold air.
Terrific. And that is all the questions we have at this point. If anyone has follow-up questions they think of, do feel free to reach out to John or to Ed or to me, Inga Hansen at Metasthetics. And we want to thank you guys so much for joining us. And John and Ed, thank you so much for putting on this great webinar.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having us.
We appreciate the opportunity. Have a great day, everybody.